Hello everyone, doing this one-on-one with Variloh today. So disclosure for anyone who's gonna call me out for not doing that. Variloh's been on my stream and could probably consider a acquaintance or even a friend, some might say. So if anyone has any issue there, I just disclose it, and you have the information. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. And for those who have know the information, they can do with it what they will. If Sargon wants to do a one-on-one with me as well, he's more than welcome. I extend it to him as well. And this is going to be a one-on-one more Q&A where I ask him and he answers, and that's about it. If people have a lot of questions in the chat, I could probably put them up for him. I have not sent him the questions beforehand. I told him that so he can answer them as honest as possible. So there's no preparation for him. He does not know the questions. He might know the ballpark, but he doesn't know the questions. So let's you can say hi, Variloh, since so they know you're there.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for having me, Underdog.
Yeah. So I want to go to the basics because there has been a lot of people criticizing you for the article lately, and I want to just start with the basics. Tell us your code of ethics. What do you consider ethical?
Well, I assume you mean in the writing of the actual article and not like in life and in general, because that's kind of a big
Well,
question. I can
yeah,
go into it if you
regarding
need to.
yeah, a little bit in general and a little bit to regarding the article.
Well, I'm the kind of person, first of all, that I've been saying on your streams, on my channel, and pretty much every time I get a chance, that I personally believe in the responsible consumer. I believe in people, not taking anyone's word for anything. So I believe in when you make a statement or when you write something or do a YouTube video that you link as much as possible so that people can go and make their own decisions. Um, I kind of wear my bias on my sleeve, and I kind of try to go anywhere and talk to anyone and everyone about the things I'm doing and kind of explain them, which is why I continuously keep popping up on these streams. And when it comes specifically to writing, I believe, which is the big question that everyone's been asking me about, why didn't I go to Sargon first? So I think this is as good a moment as any to talk about that. I personally believe that you don't really need to do an interview with a person unless you're doing a he said, she said situation. Now, there's certain exceptions to that rule. And what do I mean with he said, she said? Well, it's kind of like if I were an article about the Androdoll, and specifically an accusation that someone levered on him, and I write the article about that, then I think I have a responsibility to go to the Androdoll for comment. If I'm writing an article about things that have already happened and are established and you can go and look at them yourself, I don't feel I have that much of a need to go and get a comment from a person. There's certain exceptions, like for example the Yuji Nakajima article that I wrote about SJW Riot. That was an ongoing project. The focus was exclusively the project and the decisions that were being made and information that wasn't out there. There was no way for me to actually get. I contacted him for comment because there's a lot of questions that you couldn't answer simply. There was no information and you couldn't really answer it. And B, his was an ongoing project. So whatever I wrote was going to had the possibility to directly affect, how much funding he could get. So as I said, there's exceptions to every rule. I don't know if that kind of answers the whole ethics thing.
Well, and that was kind of one of my follow-up questions later about
We'll get back to
contacting.
it.
Yeah, we can get back to it. And what would you consider unethical when it comes to and not just the article, but also in general?
Well, I consider unethical number one making things up, lying to people, and not giving them the ability to kind of check your evidence. I consider it unethical to not respond to your consumers' claims, and I'm going more in the consumer route because in general in life it kind of we'd be here for 2 hours, so I'm kind of just aiming at what I think people care. Um, I believe, frankly, as I said, if you are going to make a claim, you have to show all the sources and show, how you got to that conclusion if you're presenting a specific conclusion. I believe in encouraging your readership or your consumer to do their due diligence, uh, and pretty much that. I mean, I don't know if that covers what you're trying to get at. If not,
No,
let me
it's
know.
just a general idea,
Okay. Okay.
so people know where you're coming from.
To sum it up, maybe in one sentence, I think the people come first. And if you're any kind of provider of any kind of content, your consumer is number one, and you should operate under that assumption.
All right. So now let's get more into specific which you mentioned, because a lot of people have gone after you and said you should have contacted Sargon before the writing the article. What do you have to say to those critics?
Well, as I said, the contacting of someone, it depends on the situation. Because if you can only wait to write an article about anyone until they answer you, or if you have to ask people for permission, can I write this about you, Mr. Uh, X or Y person? That's a little ridiculous. And when it comes specifically to the Sargon article, people are very hung up on the Giuseppe part, which is why they say, why didn't you go and contact him about that? Well, specifically in the article, I don't talk about the claims of Giuseppe not being paid or that kind of stuff. And I specifically state I'm not going to get into this because that's a he said she said. And if I were to contact Sargon about that, I'd have to find a way to contact Giuseppe, and there was no way. At least I looked around, and all I found of him was an abandoned YouTube. There was no real way for me to get in contact with him. So, I was more presenting things that already happened, presenting like a big amount of the citations and the sources were his own words in his own videos, and I didn't cut them or I didn't take little fragments. I gave you the whole thing. Like when I made the claim about the AJSA, for example, and him, having a conversation with Damien Rain, not presenting the other side, I gave you the link to the whole video. You can watch the whole thing there. So it's kind of on you to make your own conclusion. And I expect, and at least I respect my readership because I believe that they are capable of doing that. And a lot of people, have reached out to me and with their own conclusions. So those readers do exist. So that's why I didn't contact him.
All right, and during the one-on-one, or should I say, the free stream with you, Seattle for Truth, which and Sargon, which we're gonna get into later. Well, Sargon said you were wrong when it comes to uh, things you didn't know, and you were wrong in your article. I listened to both streams, so you can go back to and listen to this. And he said several times you were completely wrong. Um, you've since updated your article. What would you say to that accusation?
Well, I'd say that he did a lot of flip-flopping when it comes to that accusation. He said you were flat out wrong about. He said I had, the thing that he's been going around saying now is that I have no knowledge of UK law, and that may be true or may be false. Maybe a combination of fatigue during that stream. There's a lot of reasons, but let's assume that he's right. That has very little to do with the article, and in fact, he conceded almost every point in the article. So, me being just wrong, he'd have to kind of point in the direction of what exactly I'm wrong about. Furthermore, the only thing that he really came up and said is I didn't show the chronology of events when it came to his exchange with Giuseppe, and it wasn't even an exchange, it was a indirect kind of thing. And he said I didn't show the chronology of events, to which I have disagreed with. I said that the events in question were the YouTube comment that never, that doesn't exist. And he was trying to make the conflation that the niche game article comment was the same comment, and I should have showed it. And I wasn't showing it for some kind of big reveal or with one big kind of agenda. And what I've done is I've gone back and updated the article, and to his specific request, which is have his image last and Giuseppe's image first. And I went and I took the images and I put them there, and I wrote, notice how this doesn't change anything in the article itself. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the information I'm looking at is not their little dispute, which we know nothing about. You know, we know Sargon's side, but I'm not going to take his word for it. And until we hear from Giuseppe, it's just that, his side. But you know, notice how it changes very little in the article itself, if I in fact argue nothing at all. And the other point that he made was that I know nothing about sole proprietorship, which, again, he can make that argument, and at least on the stream, he was right. But that really didn't bear any difference on the fact that the LLC, which was the only claim I made, was dissolved, and it was. The LTD, excuse me. And I've gone back and I've cleared up that Sargon is a sole proprietor. I've cleared up that he doesn't have any, you know, that he only has a gentleman's agreement with Russ. You know, all his words in the second stream, and you know, so on and so forth. And again, I've left it to my e-readers to decide if that really changes anything when it comes to the article itself. So my response to him would be, you know, if there's something that I'm terribly wrong at, he's been terribly bad at pointing it out.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of posts with regarding ripping into you because of the whole sole proprietorship thing. But you've admitted it that you on the stream as well, Adnan. That's you were kind of wrong there on air. So
Yeah, well, not kind of wrong, completely wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong, and people need to now you've heard him here say it that he was wrong, and put that behind you. Next question I have for you. A lot of people, regarding at least the first stream,
yeah,
talked about your tone in the stream, and you also in your article you lack tact. What would you say to those critics?
Well, I'd separate that. First, let's go with the article, and let's go to the stream, because the stream's a little bit more complex.
Yeah, it's two different questions, but go ahead and answer what you want to first.
So going first to the article, people say I lack tact. I would suggest that they read the rest of the stuff that's there, like 7 ways of checking that pesky privilege, or the previous article about the escapist. That's my style of writing. I'm a guy who likes to include a lot of maybe crude jokes and maybe you know, uses a nasty way of speaking. And if you look at my previous work, you'll notice that in the Sargon article, that is almost completely gone. And the reason for that is that I rewrote it. I originally had a bunch of memes in it. I had like the Will Smith, like, but wait, there's more thing in there. And I changed it, and you know, I don't do regrets. You know, everything happens for a reason in my opinion. But if I would have one do-over, it would be to leave it in its original form. That's what I would have liked to do, and kind of, you know, receive that shit for doing what I do. But at the end of the day, the tone doesn't really matter, does it? Because we all support Milo Yiannopoulos, and if you're going to tell me that he's a nice guy in his articles, I'm going to tell you you're full of shit. So, you know, if he gets away with it and he gets applauded and all that kind of stuff, then why is it that in my particular case, you know, hey, that's unacceptable? You know, it comes to me that maybe it's not how I wrote it, it's who I wrote it about that the real problem is. And when going to the stream, you know, it's funny because people like to say that I was the guy who was yelling and doing all this stuff. I would suggest go back to the stream and see if it was really me who just came on yelling like a crazy person, and who started with the condescension. I even pointed out in the stream. I say, remember that for later, which nobody did remember that. But furthermore, analyze the whole situation. I'm on a stream with a guy who's taking issue with something I wrote, but didn't really read it, glossed over it in his own words, who I'm going on to the stream expecting to hear his complaints, to hear his specific complaints and address them, not do a TLDR of something that, you know, you spent quite a bit of time researching and writing. That does it always an injustice. Furthermore, there's a third guy there that I didn't know, that I've since talked to him, and his intentions weren't malicious, but nonetheless, there's a third guy there that I don't know and has nothing to do with the article. And if you read his description, is conflated with me in a way. Um, so, and also keep in mind that I wasn't going to go on the stream originally. I frankly wasn't even going to be on that stream because if you look at what time I published the article, you'll know that I got no sleep. And I was stepping out the door, and I got information on my cell phone saying, "Hey, Sargon's going to make a stream. You need to be on." And I was like, "Okay, I'll be on if he asks me." I didn't know he was going to ask me that second, but he did. So I had to cancel my other plans for the day and go on to that stream and deal with this third person who I specifically asked Sargon, and I dare him to call me a liar. Why is this person on? Maybe you should have him on later. And he refused. He's like, "No, I'm having him on now." So it is what it is. It's my personal responsibility to have gone on that stream to begin with, but I tell people that maybe they're looking at what they want to see rather than what's actually there. Did I yell on that stream? Did I get agitated? I have no doubt. I mean, I don't deny that, but look at the situation. And again, go back to that stream and take a look at who started what. And I'm not saying that, oh, he started it as a good excuse. I'm just saying that if I'm going to get shit for it, so should he.
Yeah, that was kind of my follow-up question. People, a lot of people I've seen criticized you for dropping your so-called spaghetti on Sargon's stream, and not just that one, and also on the other one. Response?
That's funny. I mean, on the first stream, I'll say that there was pasta that left my plate. I have never denied that. It's on Sargon to decide and everyone else to decide if pasta left his plate too. But on the second stream, I was very calm. I was very collected. I was doing I wasn't yelling. I was doing what I felt was a good representation of myself in my article. And Sargon barged in, telling everyone to shut the fuck up. And my response includes, I even said, because then the follow-up accusation is you all ganged up on him. I said on that stream, I don't think Sargon should come on because there's a lot of people here. And I was the guy telling everyone to shut the fuck up and listen to what he has to say. And when I would wait for my turn, because I was quiet for a really long time to wait for my turn, and when I responded to him, he'd just continue interrupting. So, hey, I don't think I dropped my spaghetti on that second stream. I think, in my personal opinion, Sargon barged in, throwing spaghetti all over the walls with monkey feces as well. But again, it is what it is. If the whole argument is you dropped your spaghetti on X or Y stream, henceforth you must be wrong, which I've gotten consistently, then we're no better than the opposition. I hate to be the guy to tell you guys. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I also saw people saying you were also condescending on Sargon's first stream. Any response to that?
I watched the stream a couple of days ago. I'd have to rewatch it. I wouldn't doubt that I was condescending, but I think I lost my temper a lot quicker than actually became condescending. And again, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that the first person to be condescending on that stream was Sargon himself. And again, I bluntly pointed out so people would remember, because I knew that was going to happen. But it's just, if I was condescending, I wouldn't deny it. I can't really remember the specific intention of being condescending. It was probably happened, midway through the stream. I wouldn't deny, but on the second stream, I think I conducted myself quite well, and I don't think I was condescending or rude. There was one part that I did tell him to shut the fuck up because I listened to him, and he was just, when you're being nice to someone who you don't think deserves it, and they're screaming over you, you eventually tell them to fuck off. And again, I stand by 100% my attitude on the second stream. I won't deny it of dropping my pasta on the first one. Condescension on the first one, I wouldn't deny that either, but on the second one, I deny all counts.
All right, and what I'm kind of letting you talk, and because the thing people seem to talk about was you saying to Sargon on his own stream to lower his tone. That's
Yeah,
That
I'm gonna
was
turn that into a catchphrase, quite frankly, because I loved Tonegate after that. People think that I'm somehow embarrassed of that. I'm not embarrassed at all. I mean, it's this is the guy that everyone considers this incredible debater and this incredible talker, and there he was yelling, off of his lungs, talking over me specifically. And it's funny because people won't hear that because when you talk on streams, the people only see like the volume of the other person goes down immediately, so people don't really see what's going on, and they only hear him. But if you go back to that specific moment, it was getting to the point that I knew it was going to be a hostile environment, obviously, but it's gotten to the point that I was pissed. And again, I was pissed because there was a third guy there to begin with. And the stream's name is talking about necromancer. Like nothing else in the article is relevant. It's just we're talking about necromancer. And, it's just there's a lot of things there that obviously pissed me off. And again, lower your tone was one of the things that I think I did right, and I'd love to turn that into a catchphrase. So, come at me, bro.
Yeah, and Sargon has made the accusation not only on his stream, but also on the second stream. Again, I'm not speaking for Sargon or anyone. I'm just basically asking the questions which people have been pointing your way. Is what do you say about the accusation of you building a narrative against Sargon?
Well, again, I've answered that question in different ways throughout the thing because the more I think about it, the more I think it's a non-question. But I'm going to answer that. But before we do that, isn't it kind of hypocritical that I'm accused of building a narrative when his video only shows an archived version of my article, that he hasn't talked about the fact that I updated with his specific requests the article itself, that all he's been able to talk about is you don't know anything about the law, kid. Um, that his even the title of his video is misleading at best, and building and bringing a third person on there, which automatically conflates that person's beliefs and gripes with my own. So it's very curious that I'm the guy building a narrative, but Sargon's doing the exact same thing, and nobody calls him on that. Now, specifically regarding me building a narrative, my intention was never to build a narrative. And again, if I'm building a narrative, I'm terrible at it. I'm really bad at it because if I'm building a narrative that let's fucking take down Sargon, and I write shit like my intention is not to do this, or we have to talk about people that we admire, or that I state my actual intention in the first couple paragraphs, again, I'm doing a really poor job at presenting a narrative. Not only that, but including the fact that I'm going to update this and I'm going to talk to whoever wants to talk to me. Again, it wrecks my quote-unquote narrative. Now, that wasn't my intention. I can see how it comes off to some people that way, but what I would really like to ask it, what does it matter? Let's say that, yeah, I'm building a narrative that Sargon is a horrible fucking person, and he's a liar and a fraud and a con artist, things that I've never said, or in not only in streams, but in the article, but nonetheless, that's been laid on my feet that I'm calling him a con. Um, let's assume that that's my point. If I'm giving you all the evidence, if I'm showing you where I'm getting the information from, you can decide on your own if I'm twisting it and if I'm full of it, or if Sargon's right. And I said that on his stream. But again, it's more what's your intention, not what you're saying, that people seem to be interested in this particular scenario. And again, how many people have we supported who have building their own narratives? I'll lay Milo Yiannopoulos at your feet again. You're telling me that his articles have no narrative, but we fucking parade him around as the journalist. So my specific claims to whether you're building a narrative at this point is more, does it matter?
All right, and there are also people saying critiquing you for that the article was also badly written. Any response to that?
Hey, if you want to say I failed as a writer, again, you have every right. I mean, does that make me any less right or wrong? I mean, I won't deny that I'm not a journalistic writer. I've never written this type of thing before. I've always written fiction and short stories and essays. That was kind of my thing. Now, if you're talking about the spelling errors, well, again, that seems petty because it was published at 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even push it on my Twitter. Like, that's the one thing I always do. Anyone who follows me knows that 80% of my tweets are me pushing my shit on Twitter. I didn't even push it there. I think I responded it to one guy and then maybe put it as the pinned tweet in my feed. But again, if your accusation is, well, you don't, I don't like your writing style, or I don't like your, the fact that you made a lot of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, that's just, the former is your personal opinion, the latter is just petty.
All right. And if you get more facts regarding this whole thing, would you add it and update or edit the article?
Well, I've already done that once, as per Sargon's requests, but he won't tell you that because I'm the one building a narrative. If I get more facts at this point, like if I deem them worthy, if I deem them appropriate, of course I'll update it. Like, I've already done that. So, and I've also done 3 edits on that night, like including the fact that I'm a game developer, so that because it would be a conflict of interest, and I forgot to include it. So 10 minutes later, I did that, and so again, it's at the very least, every intention is there to update it. I just don't see anybody really critiquing my facts, to be honest. So, the short answer is yes, I would update it.
Okay. What would you say to not only critics, but Sargon also said it as well, you being unethical?
I'd say point what I've done unethically. Like Sargon, to be fair to him, he said I was being unethical because I was presenting the facts in a non-chronological order, which I already explained that that's bullshit. And then, just to please him, I went ahead and did what he told, what he asked me to do, despite the fact that I strongly disagreed with it. Point to me, how am I unethical? I mean, it seems pretty. It seems like more of a nonsense claim more than anything else, to be honest. And if you're going to say I'm unethical because I'm building a narrative, even if let's assume that's true, then I hope you guys go and say the same to not just Sargon, who's building his own narrative, but Milo as well, and a bunch of other people who are a part of Gamergate. So, I'm unethical. Show me how. Most people who've done that, who've said that, didn't bother reading the article. Is what I've found.
Fair enough. I saw something. I heard on the stream from Sargon, and he also posted in the chat earlier that you failed to point out that he was being unethical. What is your response to that?
Well, I tell him to go back and read the article. I've actually answered that on his stream when put on the spot, and I've told him, to me, the unethical situation is not necromancer on its own, which is what he's trying to spin, but all the things that you've done throughout, all the things that I point out in the article. I think, for example, and I always went back to that, and he never had a response other than I don't care, about the AJSA situation. The whole thing that you're Mr. Against censorship, but 3 months is fine, and there's apparently now this time limit in which censorship is okay. That to me is unethical. You showing one side of that argument, knowing that there was another side of it, knowing that you were suppressing information, knowing that you were assisting with this push of let's not talk about it, knowing all of that, you still went ahead and did it. And he admitted to knowing that my accusations or claims, let's say, were there when he had Damon Rain on the stream. So just with that alone, that's unethical to me. But furthermore, doing this whole ethics-only push, I find that unethical too. But the interesting thing that people need to ask themselves is ethics subjective to the person? Because again, I've never claimed that I'm the authority on ethics. I've never claimed that my personal ethical standards are similar to yours or to anyone else's. So you guys got to decide for yourself. Do I personally believe he is? Yes. And the reasons are there in the article, and I just gave you a couple.
Fair enough. And do you say this is regarding the backlash you've been getting, and I also saw someone in the chat which kind of has which is a criticism that you've been getting after all this, is if you're doing this for fame and for notoriety, or and all the backlash you've gotten. Any response to that?
First of all, I expect my readers and everyone else to try to find out if I'm doing this for fame. That's a good question, actually. It's not good when you say you're just doing it for fame. It's good as saying, is this guy just trying to be famous? And to that, let me lay down the logical explanation. If you look at my work and you look at what I've done, the majority of my audience are gamergaters. Like, that's the majority of who my audience is. It's gamergaters, mainstream gamergaters, not, the ex-gamergaters or stuff like that. It's gamergaters. And I do an article criticizing one of the most famous guys in Gamergate. Tell me, how is that going to end well in any way when it comes to fame? Like, I'm telling my entire audience what they don't want to hear. Like, who's going to come read me now? The Chans? Because that's another accusation that's being leveled my way, that I'm conspiring with the Chans. Those people clearly don't understand how the Chans work, and I'm not claiming that I do either. But, people have sent me a couple of threads, and they have criticisms for me too. And they don't do the whole let's follow, the leader thing, at least to my understanding, because I'm not a Channer. So, again, it's how am I going to become famous? It's more likely to become infamous and to alienate all of my readers for doing this. So it's kind of a dumb claim to say you're doing this for fame if you really just look at the situation. I'm just doing what I feel is right. And I've been doing exactly that from the beginning. If you look at my stuff, if you look at my YouTube, if you even look at my Twitch before Gamergate, you'll find that everything I'm doing is consistent with who I am, not, a one-off to fucking get a couple of clicks. And on that note, some people have accused me, hey, there's ads on your site, you're clearly getting paid for this, which is, again, a good, it's a good point. The problem is I haven't received a penny, and the reason why I haven't received a penny is because, and Mr. Sargon can explain this better than I can, I created my AdSense through YouTube, so I can monetize YouTube videos and get paid for that. But to monetize websites, you have to go through this entire upgrading process, and I've yet to be upgraded. And you can go to the forums, to the AdSense forums, and you'll realize that that's a pretty messy process. And to give you a little additional piece of information, my website is created with Wix, and Wix has historically trouble with getting that process accelerated. So, if the accusation is money, I'm not getting paid for this. If the accusation is to build a following, I'm isolating them by doing this. So, I'm obviously not going to tell you what to believe. It's kind of just, if I'm doing this to get famous, I'm kind of an idiot. I should be, applauding Sargon, and I should be doing more SJW Gamer, which is what got me a certain following in the first place. So, that's my answer.
Fair enough. I heard from Base Nerd. I'm gonna rephrase it a little bit because he said he's not sure how to phrase it. But
who? Excuse me?
basically, Base Nerd in the chat because it's kind of a follow-up question to this. Doing this article, what is really the purpose behind the article, and what did you hope to accomplish with it by doing it?
That's a good question. If you go to the article itself, you can get that answer. The whole point, because again, this article is part 2 of the Gamergate Battered Wife series. The point of the article is to not just point out the questionable decisions that Sargon has taken, questionable in my opinion, but to point out the fact that Gamergate is really, really bad at criticizing its own. And we are. We range from completely giving, no credence to any claims to completely burying people. We have nowhere in between. We absolutely are terrible at criticizing our own flaws. And the first way to solve a problem is to acknowledging there is one. And, look at the state Gamergate's in. It's in shambles. Even the most optimistic person can't fucking argue that. The tweets are down. The posts and the boards are down, and there's a division in the Chan boards to begin with. Kotaku in Action has gotten a lot of criticism that people don't like talking about, and a lot of people have left. Uh, and I challenge people to find out of those 47,000 subscribers how many are active users of the of Kotaku in Action. And we are in trouble in part because we really don't know how to criticize our own or how to criticize ourselves. In part because we've gotten shit from all sides. I mean, just look at this very stream. I hadn't looked at the chat and I hadn't looked at the video. The shit hasn't even, we're not even halfway through, you could argue, and it's already 4-3 in dislike. Like, people just went in and said, fuck this. Like, that's how terrible we are when it comes to criticizing our own. We don't even bother listening to people. So the purpose of the article and of the series itself is to point out the flaws and problems that are eating Gamergate alive so that we can fix them. So, make of that what you may.
Yeah, I see some questions, but they're kind of leading. I can probably ask you them off air.
Yeah,
because,
ask them anyway. Ask them anyway, even if they're leading.
But it's also kind of answering the question for Sargon. But I can ask. It's from Bacon from Hell. Well, why does Sargon keep trying to stop you? If you're wrong, why does he continue to try to stop you?
Yeah, you're right. That is a leading question. I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of
really.
You're
I
kind
can't
of
really answer
answering
that.
the question for Sargon.
Like, best I can do is speculate, and I don't really want to do much of that. I guess the most I have to say is, it's telling, isn't it? When someone, is specifically out to paint you in a certain light and to destroy your credibility and to do this and to do that, it's pretty telling that they don't want people to listen to you. Now, what you need to question yourself, Bacon, and everyone else, is why. So that I think that's all I'll say, and I'll get shit for saying that as well. But go ahead. It is what it is.
Well, I'm not here to really say my opinion, so I'm just here to get your side. So I'm leaving my opinion at the door. Whatever feelings I have towards you or Sargon, I'm not gonna express them here. So there's also a very big question. If there's anything you would change or done differently regarding this whole controversy, or what you would say, the spaghetti mess or Tonegate, whatever you want to fucking call it, would you have done anything different?
I'm not big on regret. As I've said before, I'm kind of like, when things happen, you deal with them, and if they wouldn't have happened, a lot of other good things couldn't happen. So I'm very much deal with things as they come. So I'm not big on regret, and I'm not big on do-overs. I have said that if there's one thing that I maybe would have liked to have a do-over, is to have left the article in its original provocative comedic state. Because again, I toned it down, quote unquote tone. I toned it down to kind of temper the backlash, and I got backlash anyway. So it's kind of like, if you're going to burn, you might as well burn for your fucking legitimate work. So that's something that, again, I don't regret. It's more of a learning experience. I know what to do next time, and I know because I did it. And the same with Sargon's stream. You could argue that I should have just allowed him to speak to Seattle for Truth and just not show up. But that would have opened up a bunch of different criticism anyway. So I'm not big on regret, as I said. I learn as I go. So those are the things I've learned, if that kind of answers their question.
All right. I have pretty much gone through all questions that I have. If there's any criticism to if I'm doing bad questions, you can kind of you can put them in the chat if there's anything you feel that I'm not being asking good enough question. But in the meantime, is there anything you want to touch before we get some questions in?
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit to give the chat time to ask questions. And for the record, if like people watching this afterwards want to like say, oh, you didn't ask this, this, and this, leave your questions in the description, in the comment section, excuse me, and I'm sure Andrew will get in contact with me and ask me for a statement, whether it be on another interview, interview stream or on one of his Saturday streams. Um, I don't know. I guess the main thing that to me is funny and that to me is hilarious is is not just the backlash, because it's one thing to disagree with me and to say, hey, you're full of shit, but it's the amount of people who didn't bother reading the article. Like that tells me that what these people have done without realizing it is they've proven my point. There's a huge problem in Gamergate when it comes to e-celebs and just follow the leader. And it's ironic in a movement that supposedly has no leaders. And how many people have come over me and said, oh, you're just a fucking liar, and I asked them, did you read the article? And they're like, nah, I watched the Sargon stream. Like, did you watch the second one? Nah, I don't have time for that either. And it's very telling how broken things are at this point. And for the people worrying about PR, because I think that's something you haven't touched on, and it's something I've gotten quite a bit of, that they're concerned with PR and me putting this out there doesn't help how we look and all that nonsense. Ask yourselves the following question. If the people at Ghazi, and granted, they're not competent enough to do this, but if the people at Ghazi would come over to my Twitter, and for all you people that believe that Twitter meanness is harassment, which I don't, and just pick 5 random tweets I've gotten in the last 5 days, they could go ahead and write, oh, look what Gamergate does to its own. So you accuse me and throw shit at my door for fucking with the PR, but you're not doing a very good job, guys, yourselves. You know, you're kind of giving into that same game. And I'm fascinated of it because I think PR is bullshit. I don't think there's such a thing as Twitter harassment, or I don't think that Twitter meanness is a problem, because guess what I did when I fucking started getting shit the first day? I turned my cell phone off, and I didn't read it, and I didn't go to it until I was interested in reading it. So, you know, it's these PR people and these ethics-only people who give you all this, you know, white bread, white meat speeches, you can quickly see how that turns very quickly. So, you know.
Yeah, I got some questions now.
Great.
Because Sargon is back in the chat, and
Shocking.
it's kind of back to the earlier question, but he wanted a more definitive answer on why he's being unethical, and if Variloh isn't interested in me defending myself, don't tweet the stream at me. Those on people
Variloh
in
isn't
the chat.
interested.
That's the chat wants us to.
Variloh isn't interested in me defending myself. Don't tweet it at me. That's again, that's an I guess that kind of, you know, paints its own picture. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, how am I stopping you from defending yourself? Like, I'm having a one-on-one interview where people have the ability to ask me the serious questions without, you know, outside interference. The host has offered to do the same with you. I don't know what you want me to say when it comes to me not wanting you to defend yourself. You know, I really don't know what to say to that. As to what exactly you did that was unethical, I'd suggest you either listen back to the stream or go back to the article. I've told you this multiple times, Sargon, what I thought already. And, you know, there's very little, you know, repeating it is just nonsense. But I'll give you a couple of examples. I think that you in particular, when it came to the AJSA, to not telling the other side of the story when knowing there was another side of the story was unethical. And if you want to get to more current, by the way, you not putting the updated article in your video, not using updated sources, isn't that the same shit we've criticized a lot of people of doing? You know, there's that as well. So, you know, it is what it is. I think I've told them multiple times at this point, you know, what I felt was unethical. I feel that they're doing the ethics-only push and pretty much putting down anyone who tries to to say, hey, we should have an anti-SJW conversation with that. I think that's unethical. I think not
Uh,
giving. Go ahead.
no, it's just in the chat. There's a delay, and they're being a little bit impatient. To stop dodging and answer that question directly in a sentence.
That's funny.
Um,
Give us your answer in a sentence. It's telling, isn't it? Well, I gave my answer, and if you want more, go to the article.
um, yeah, saying how Sargon does things uh, is not what I'm gonna do because, as I said, my opinion is left at the door. You are given questions. If Sargon wants to do another day, a few days from now, and I can ask him some questions. Well, if he's interested, I said it at the start of the stream, and I have said also at the start of the stream that. Some might consider you an acquaintance or even a friend of mine, so they can also take that into consideration. And if this isn't informative or neutral, they can always look at both of the instances you interacted with each other on stream, on LT Sarge's stream and his own.
It's
Um,
important to note, and I started to talk to cut in that I'm going to do another stream with another group of people who are going to be grilling me for the tough questions. So again, it's I don't know what to say at this point. It's kind of the accusation's always been you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Nobody cares what you're saying. Clearly, a lot of people care what I'm saying. So I don't know, man. It's just the readers can decide. I don't know why that's such a problem when I'm telling people just go look at the article, look at the sources, and decide for yourself. Sargon seemed to have a big problem with that. Um, so and again, it's kind of he's leveled those accusations at me as well. He said I'm unethical, and I've updated the things that he's requested, but he's not going to talk about that because that hurts his narrative. So but hey, just I think the main difference between him and me came out in both the streams. I think my readers are intelligent enough to look at all the sources and to come to their own conclusions. He apparently is worried that they don't have the time to do that.
Yeah, and as I said, Sargon, you're more than welcome. You can also DM me on Twitter if there's anything I left out or any criticisms, because it's the article about you, after all, we're talking about. And I pretty much, again, if there's any last questions towards Variloh, you can ask him here. Also, leave questions in the comments. Uh, and I can handle any criticisms you guys can throw at me, because criticism is welcome as long as it isn't threatening me in any kind. So doesn't seem to be any questions. So any last statement then from you regarding this?
Well, I guess when it comes down to it, it's pretty much the last statement I've given every time I've been on a stream. I believe that my readers are intelligent enough to come to their own conclusion. If you disagree with my conclusion, that's fine. Like if you disagree with my standard of ethics, again, that's fine. If you want to call me a liar, then you got to prove that. And I believe everyone who's attempted to do that has failed miserably, including Sargon. I think that a lot of people are dodging a lot of the issues. I mean, I think that there's been a lot of disingenuous intentions to go around. Um, and I don't know, man. It's just look at the streams, look at the article, come to your own conclusion. There's a lot of me out there. You can hear my voice way too much with all the stuff that's out there at this point. So there's enough information for people to make their own informed decisions. If you want to base your decision on a single stream, then that's your failure as a consumer, quite frankly. And again, this whole shitstorm has pretty much proven my point. We're terrible at handling criticism of our own. We really, really are bad, and I think that's a mixture of all the shit we've gotten from the other side. And again, there's, people can throw their shit at me all they want. There's a huge division in Gamergate, and there's reasons for that. There's huge divisions in Gamergate. The movement, quote unquote movement, revolt, whatever, is in shambles. And the one thing that people are looking forward to now is SPJ, which has a host of problems of its own. So I don't know, man. I mean, if people want to continue saying that everything's fine and that there's sunshine under, that everything's fine, it's flowers and sunshine, that we killed Gawker, which we didn't do, that had nothing to do with us, and they're not even dead yet. I mean, it's premature burial much, but then fine, you can go ahead and do that. I mean, worry about PR and watch as your numbers dwindle even farther. And as I said to Sargon, I mean, I've been on 2 streams with him at this point, so it's not about him not defending himself. It's about me getting my story out at this point, because God knows I didn't have a chance to do that on the last stream. So I don't know, man. It is what it is. If you're gonna, a message to all the Sargon fanboys: if you're gonna meme me, at least don't suck at it. Like, fucking, give me something entertaining. Like, Tonegate was funny. That's cool. I'm turning that into a catchphrase. The guy who said I'm Sargon's headmate, that's cool. Do that. But all the other stuff is just weak. Like, it's obvious you're Redditors.
All right. And any last statements from me is any criticisms you have towards me, put them. You can tweet or add me, or just put it in the comment if I wasn't hard enough or critical questions. And Variloh, I'm kind of mocking. I won't mention her name, but you know who I'm talking about. Did you feel I was interrupting or unfair?
Absolutely. You were totally unfair. I demand Patreon money. What else? Shit, I don't remember her words. But yeah, you were totally unfair. This was totally a blindside attack on me. You conspired with Sargon to have him in the chat. I accuse you of all of that. No, I'm kidding. You're good as usual, which is why I came on here. I think it was fair, and I don't know, man. It is what it is at this point.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for coming on. And if you want to do a follow-up with Sargon, he's more than welcome. And that's about it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.